Welcome to episode number 154 of the Marine Layer podcast. We welcome on Mariners pitcher Emerson Hancock. We'll chat with him about his life as a top draft prospect, his development within the Mariners organization, learning about his philosophy on start days. That was really interesting, and there are a lot of really other interesting things too. We were messing around a lot with Emerson. He's an awesome dude and a fantastic conversation that you guys will hear when we get to that interview. We'll chat about the Mariners extending Victor Robles earlier today on Monday and discuss the best series of the season the Mariners have played against the Mets this past weekend. That was a lot of fun.
You guys know, but make sure to stay on top of all of our stuff, guys. To do that, if you're listening to the podcast, download all the episodes. Make sure you're leaving a 5-star review, leave a written review. That all helps us out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the subscribe button. Just press it for us. Does us a big favor if you do. So do that. Leave the video a like, drop a comment, all that good stuff. And on social media, we're everywhere. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts. Follow us there at Marine Layer Pod.
Let's get it rolling.
The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. 1-1 from Jansen. There you go. Left field. We got a tie ball game. Julio. Oh, baby, what a moment. Tie ball game is 7-7.
And we welcome you to this episode of the Marine Layer podcast, part of the Just Baseball Podcast Network, recording Monday evening, August 12th. And Lyle, if you were to try and compare how you would act on a mic, if you were mic'd up for a baseball game, would you have more or less energy than Victor Robles had on Sunday?
So I'd like to think I'd be pretty energetic, but how can anybody say with a straight face that they'd have more energy than Victor Robles did on Sunday? Like, how do you pass that? How do you top that? I don't think you can.
Now, I got to give him props because I'm going to speak from personal experience. Unless you are running on some otherworldly amount of adrenaline, and he might have had a reason for that, we'll get to that here in a second, during a game, wouldn't you be a little fizzled out by the ninth? Don't you feel like it? I feel like if it was a normal game, I'd be a little tired by the end of the game. If there was that much focus and energy spent standing around in a given game, would you not be tired? I feel like I would be, which gives even more props to Victor.
I don't know if it was a normal game, though. It was Sunday Night Baseball. It was a big deal. First time in 20 years. I think that meant something to a lot of people. I think Robles was excited about it.
And he had good reason to, because right before the game, in fact, about 20 to 30 minutes before the game, he had signed his new extension with the Mariners, a 2-year, almost $10 million deal with a club option for a third season. And this is a guy, in Victor Robles, who, in the span of now 2 months, Lyle, June 1st, was outright released by the Nationals. It is Monday, August 12th, 2 months and 11 days later, and he has a 2-year guaranteed contract with a different team. How do you even see something like this coming as a baseball player? I mean, you hit the lowest of lows, and you now have it could be 3-year guaranteed deal with a team to earn about $20 million after you were released outright.
TJ, when he dropped that ball in left field in Oakland, what if I told you that 2 months from then, he's getting a 2-year extension with the Mariners?
I would say you're full of crap and he's getting cut tomorrow.
I am sure glad they didn't do that. Let me tell you what. I love Victor Robles, dude. I've become such a fan of his in such a short amount of time, as has the rest of the Mariners fan base, for great reason. For a team that has lacked energy at times this year, you saw Cal Raleigh's quote during the Tiger series. For a team that's lacked energy, he has reinvigorated it right back into him and injected life right back into this clubhouse. You can tell he's liked within that locker room. You can tell what he does on the field production-wise. You can tell what he does for the team just in terms of bringing life to the rest of the club. And you're talking about a guy that was a 135 WRC plus hitter in June, 185 in July. For a stretch in July, he was a top 10 hitter in the sport. That's your guy. And now he has become very quickly loved by this fan base. I think it's awesome and such a cool story.
want to give a shout out to ESPN too, because they nailed who they were going to highlight in this game. Absolutely crushed it. The guy who got the most screen time was Victor Robles. The amount of time that Carl Ravish and David Cohn and Eduardo Perez spent talking about Victor Robles was more than anyone else. In case you forgot, Julio was back on Sunday night. But which Dominican outfielder did they spend more time talking about on Sunday, Lyle?
Not the guy that went 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts.
Nope. It was Victor Robles' time. So they nailed, despite the fact the biggest storyline of the day was your superstar, I can't contradict what has been said on this podcast, Lyle. So let me refrain. Your star center fielder coming back and DHing for the first time in 18 days. No, it was instead the other guy playing center field in Victor Robles, who was highlighted. His personality was shown. That was amazing. So shout out to him. And remember, keep this idea in your head with this extension. So he signs this at 27 years old. The guaranteed part of this contract will keep him in Seattle through his age 28 and 29 seasons, with the club option for his age 31 season. So not only could Victor Robles get about $20 million total on this contract if the club option is picked up, and there's a couple of escalators in there as well, given he gets a full amount of playing time for the 2 years, it could reach about $21 million. And then, assuming if the Mariners pick up that club option for him, he is probably playing pretty well. And then he can hit the free agent market again at age 31 and go get another contract, which is, again, just amazing for him, seeming that he was put on waivers earlier this year. Not a single team wanted him at $2.6 million. Not even the Mariners wanted to pick up that up off of waivers. Teams just let it pass because they knew no one else was going to claim him. And look what has happened since then.
So cool. I want to talk more about him being on the mic on Sunday Night Baseball here in a minute, but just to wrap up the Mariners talk and the extension talk, well, two things I want to say. Number one, and I certainly hope this is not the case, I think Victor Robles absolutely has a chance to keep being a very productive starter going forward. If he were, for whatever reason, to regress a little bit, paying a fourth outfielder $4.5 million is nothing. That's chump change. And honestly, that's probably about worth the value of a fourth outfielder. So if you have a fourth outfielder like Victor Robles, who can come off the bench, he can hit some lefties, he can play some defense. I know he's not as fast as he once was, but he can still run the bases a bit. That's a really good fourth outfielder to have. And a guy who sparks that much energy into a team, that's worth the $9 million over 2 years. Now, let's hope he's just a starter and he way outperforms that contract, and he's got a chance to. But I think this is a pretty safe deal, not just for Victor Robles and having the chance to hit free agency again in a couple years, but for the Mariners.
So last baseball thing on me, and then I'll tee up for the rest of the mic'd up stuff. So think of how this impacts the Mariners outfield. They now have 5 outfielders under contract for next season. Or sorry, no, they have 6. 5, 6? No, they have 6. Mm-hmm. Yep. Rayleigh and Canzona, the lefties, Robles, Julio, Randy, Haniger, all under contract for next year. Mm-hmm. I have a hard time seeing them carry 6 guys, 6 outfielders on one roster next season. This year, they'll probably make it work because they need bats. But next year, it'll be interesting. That'll certainly be curious. And even, I still wrote down the note, Lyle, even though they have 6 outfielders under contract for next season, now that they have 2 Dominican outfielders here under contract for next season, they should convince another Dominican outfielder that this is actually a fun place to play. Oh. 2 Dominican outfielders who really love it here and have outwardly said how much they love playing in Seattle. They go to this other guy with the initials of JS and tell him it's pretty awesome here, man.
Well, he's got some ties. One's a former teammate, came up together in the minors.
Oh, I'm liking the sound of that. Can we make it happen, boys?
Victor Robles can preach some positivity about the Mariners, about Seattle. I think they got to get it done. Or if he decides to just take the money, you still can go trade for Kyle Tucker, of course.
I like that.
So,
like that.
But let's hope you don't have to give up any prospects. You just spend the money on a certain Dominican outfielder with the initials JS. I'd be down.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
same here. I do want to say, I want to talk about Victor Robles a little bit more on the ESPN broadcast. I also want to say we got him on the mic, probably what was now, judging by the reporting, an hour before he officially signed the contract extension pen to paper. I actually signed it. You know, there wasn't a lot of position players out on Sunday. I thought they would do batting practice with Sunday Night Baseball going on, 4:15 game rather than a 1 o'clock game. For the 1 o'clock games, there's usually not batting practice, but the Mariners didn't take it. But Robles was out on the field. He was talking to some people. I was like, man, we haven't gotten to talk to him all year. He had some time, and he's the man, which I know you can already see from afar, but just getting to see it up close too, he was really cool. Like genuine, like happy to make some small talk. You could tell he enjoyed answering the questions. We've only posted one of them. We posted one here on Monday about why do you love Seattle, which ended up being very timely because about 4 hours after we posted that clip, he signs the extension. But we've got a couple other funny ones with him too that we did that we're looking forward to showing people. And yeah, he's awesome. Like, you know, talk for maybe a minute or so afterward, and you know, you can tell how much fun he's having. You can tell like the smile he has on his face. You can tell how much he's enjoying everything. Yeah, it was very cool with us. But yeah, it was. He's really been accepted here, and I think that's awesome. And it's such a cool story. I'm sure this is not where Victor Robles imagined his career going when he debuted, but the fact he has now turned it around to some extent is awesome. And like you can tell he's happy. That's cool.
There was a quote that he said while he was when they mic'd him up in center field that really stuck with me, and it was. So Carl Ravish is noticing, you know, how extroverted Victor Robles is being in center field. He's chirping, he's smiling, he's having a ton of fun, and Carl asks, have you always had this much personality? And Victor says, well, it went away for a couple of years. It's like, yeah, I could imagine. And to think of the spark that the city of Seattle added to get that version of his personality back, which has showed that that's the best version of Victor Robles. His personality, his play is great. His personality and what he brings to the Mariners, personality-wise, is incredible. You and I have talked a couple of times on here about the, you know, lack thereof personality at some positions on this Mariners team. I mean, it's just flat out, there's just not as much energy as you would like. And Victor Robles is quite the opposite of that. He's overwhelmingly energetic.
Yeah. That's basically what he said to us, too. Now, not in as long of a version as he gave answer-wise to the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast, obviously. But we asked, like, what does he love about being in Seattle? What was the first thing he said, basically, without hesitation? He said, energy. He's like, energy. Like, he feels like he has energy here, and he used the line, the fans have given me energy again. That was cool. Like, you can tell he appreciates it. I know we dive into all the numbers, and this segment's been less about the numbers, but I'm perfectly okay with that, because this has just been a very cool, like, human side of a story, and it's just a very easy guy to root for. So it's pretty cool. Now, I do want to talk on the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast. Get into the funny stuff here. Number one, like his pet monkeys. Yeah, man, he didn't hold back about that. He just owns monkeys, I guess.
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I don't know how that hadn't come up.
Like,
and ESPN dug that up, didn't they? Did someone tell them?
I guess.
Who did?
I thought, you know what? I thought Jen Mueller did an interview with Robles a few days ago where he mentioned that. Somebody can tell me if I'm wrong on that, because he did do an interview with Jen Mueller a few days ago. That might have been mentioned in there.
Like, if we asked Divish on Saturday, what pets does Victor Robles own? Could he have told us they were monkeys?
I don't know. He might have said Robles has a pet mantis, which may or may not have also been one of the questions we asked Robles that we haven't posted yet. But for those who have not seen, he has a very, very funny video of him with a mantis just sitting on his hat when he's in Washington, D.C. I don't know how often he's been asked about that, or how long it's been since he's been asked about that, or if he's even really been asked about it at all. But I guess Victor Robles really likes animals. He's good with he's good with a mantis. He's good with monkeys. He's good. Yeah, like I
Does
guess.
he like Tucker?
Like what's that?
Does he like Tucker?
Oh, I'm sure he probably likes Tucker. I'm sure.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so that was really funny. And honestly, that was talked about the most. I don't know why it is, but honestly, the funniest thing to me was right in the middle of that conversation while he's on the mic. A lot of guys, when they're on the mic and they have to go make a play, they'll just stop talking for a minute. They'll run after it, and they'll be like, let's go, or whatever. They're like yelling to themselves to try to get after the ball. But the fact Robles is like, sorry, guys, I got to make the play. And he like nearly overruns the baseball trying to get in and make the catch. And obviously he still made the catch. But I don't know. I thought that was hilarious. And then didn't skip a beat. Like, he throws the ball back in. He's yelling at Rivas and Polanco. He's like, knock it down. Because he kind of had, again, talking about Victor Robles' adrenaline, he had all this adrenaline going. He chucked a bullet into the infield so hard that it kind of skipped by Rivas, and Rojas had to back it up at third. And he's like, knock it down. And he's like, anyway, so my pet monkeys, he just didn't skip a beat. He's right back into the pet monkeys. Like, those 30 seconds or whatever it was hilarious. So, like, I mean, all around, what a great day. The Sunday Night Baseball crew, I thought, did a really cool job of really, like, putting a good picture on Seattle. It's been a long time, as we all know, since they'd been there for Sunday Night Baseball, but, you know, they had the scenic views of the city, and they're talking, you know, they highlighted Robles, they highlighted Cal Raleigh. It was pretty cool.
And they didn't spend that much time talking about the Mets. Shocking.
Yeah,
absolutely shocking.
I got to say, too, did you see what Mike Lefko, friend of ours and friend of the pod, tweeted out this weekend, too?
Yeah, that Cal Raleigh is now, so what is he? He dumps people for others, right?
Yeah. So it's just up on the Jumbotron on Sunday, and Cal says, hey, person X or whatever, I don't remember the exact names he used, but person X in section 200 something, you're being broken up with. I don't know if you've checked your text. You just got dumped by the big dumper.
I saw that.
On that note, I hope Cal Raleigh's the next guy to get an extension, because that's a guy who's really leaned into being a Mariner. He's done a lot, not just in terms of all the beatings he takes, paired with all the production he has, the fact he posts every day. But then you look at things like getting the Buhner buzz cut and doing this big dumper thing, embracing the nickname. All that paired with then when it's time to get serious, he gets serious too. He called out ownership last year. He said the team lacked energy a few days ago. I don't know. Cal Raleigh really, really feels like he has embraced being a Mariner and everything it means to be a Mariner. I know who his agent is. I know those negotiations are not going to be easy. But you know Cal likes it here too. And if there was a way for him to stick around long term, I hope it happens.
And you left out the most important part, that he's also their best offensive player. So,
well, that too. That
certainly helps a lot.
This could be his best season, and he's had multiple.
It might be. It was not looking like it in May, but man, the turnaround since June has started is. We'll have to dive into it sometime in the next couple of weeks on how Cal Raleigh has changed. But just remember, flashing back to this point, we were highlighting the offense since Jorge Polanco turned it around. I'm just going to remind people that over that sample stretch since July 9th till earlier this month, Cal Raleigh, a noted strikeout artist who'd strike out a lot, had a 20% K rate while hitting for the power he has right now, which it's pretty unbelievable. So shout out him. Yeah. And even though catchers don't age as well, he is still making himself significantly more expensive. So whether the Mariners believe he's worth that money or not, his price tag is going up. Someone's going to pay it.
Hell yeah.
So you hope it's the Mariners.
Yeah. Hell yeah, it's going up. I was going to say, when we say he might be having the best season of his career so far, don't take that lightly. Cal Raleigh's had back-to-back 4 F-WAR seasons. 4. He's been a top 5 catcher in the league by F-WAR. Like, fact. He's been one of the best offensive catchers in the league now. Multiple years in a row. And now this may be his best season.
He is your best catcher in franchise history.
Yep.
Above all else, he's the best you've ever had back there.
Yeah.
And he's going to make that known. I'm sure he will. Here, last energy question for you before we move on. Thoughts? Who had more energy this weekend, Victor Robles or Frank the Tank?
You know what? You know how I said nobody can top Victor Robles? I lied. Come on. You can't top the legend. This man not only just lost his mind on Saturday, but for those who do not keep insanely close tabs on him the way TJ and I do, this man did a full Sunday Night Baseball live stream on YouTube, and when Jorge Polanco hit the home run to go up 1-0 in the second inning, I encourage anybody to go watch that live stream and watch that reaction to that moment. He lost his mind.
So who screamed louder? Because Jorge, because Victor Robles was mic'd up for that, he also screamed. It was pretty close.
Oh, this is actually close. Well, people reached Robles because that mic was in hundreds of thousands of households. You had a ton of viewers watching it. You had a lot of people watching Frank's live stream, but it wasn't hundreds of thousands.
It was like 500.
I think he had, like, by the end, like looking at it today on Monday, he has like 7,000 views on it or something like that. So like he had viewers.
I'll give Frank this. I feel for him a little bit. I don't know how long he made it on that live stream, but he was toast by the end. He was toast.
It was 12-1.
I was very curious how his reaction to Cal Raleigh's second home run was. He was out of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give Frank credit. His team scored 1 run all weekend. So I would also be out of energy.
Yeah, we complained about that Mariners series against the Angels. 3 runs in 3 games. Mets had one run. Now, in which, honestly, before we kind of move on here into a couple other talking points, we should talk about the starting pitching this weekend. Because there's a lot of guys you can highlight this weekend, and Robles is now going to be the center of it for good reason. But there's other guys we can highlight. We've now highlighted Cal, highlighted Polanco a little bit. By the way, that double play he made, oh my God. That was
unreal. Unbelievable. And shout out to Leo for stabbing that with his bare hand.
So for a guy that, like, listen, we love Jorge Polanco. Another guy we really root for and has turned it around a ton with his bat in the last month. But defensively, he is in the first percentile and outs above average. He didn't show it right there. He made a phenomenal play. Then he made a good play in the 8th inning, too. So
that was, as Goldie put it, double play of the year.
Yes.
Yep. There won't be anything that'll top that. There is when we come back to the energy conversation, could there be any more of a polar opposite between the first series this week and the second series this week? Could it be any different?
No.
I mean, 26 innings of what you and I would call unacceptable energy levels from what we saw from the Mariners. I mean, just straight up bad. Like, what the heck is going on here? And then I'm going to try and do math here, 28 innings after that. Unbelievable. I mean, it could not have been a bigger turnaround than that. Yeah. It truly, as I put it in my reaction to the Tiger series, totally unexpected and just blew me away about that. Blown away.
So again, there's so many guys to highlight this weekend. Now we've done Cal. Now we've done Polanco. Now we've done Robles. Ryan Bliss and you mentioned Leo Rivas anchored that win on Friday. Bliss hit the home run. Rivas has the clutch hit in the game. Bottom of the lineup. Guys who are kind of at the bottom of the offensive depth chart that willed them to that win Friday was awesome. We haven't even mentioned Randy Arozarena too. The guy, I almost feel like it's flying under the radar a little bit because he's not hitting like balls out of the yard a ton yet. He's got a 920 OPS since coming over here. He's been very good. Very, very good. So all of that said, gets back to the original point I wanted to transition here to when you talked about the Mets scoring 1 run. The pitching was so good. 6 shutout for Bryce, 7 shutout for Logan, 6-1 for Luis. That's the Mariners rotation for you.
I'm sorry, what was the last pitching line here?
Oh, Luis pitched pretty good. He pitched pretty well.
The lights were pretty bright that night, right? National broadcast.
It's pretty good.
Hottest team in baseball, right?
Not better.
Matt?
Well, not better than the Phillies when Brian Wu went 7 shutout, but.
What did Brian Wu doing against the Tigers?
Right. Oh, he had one tough inning and then absolutely overpowered him for the other 5.
Interesting.
Still my game 3 starter. However, I will say, Luis is starting to look a lot better. Let's hope.
That was as good, I think, as he's looked all year.
Since that Brave start when he went 7 shutout, that was back in April.
He wasn't the most efficient. Stuff-wise, though, looked really good.
Mm-hmm. So, listen, if the final 6 weeks of the year, Luis starts to look a lot more like he did in that Met start, I'll probably change my opinion. Right now, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to say Brian Wu. But if things change, yeah, like if Luis starts to look a lot better, that's a great sign for this team. Let me say one thing too about this whole Luis versus Wu game 3 thing, and I think this is actually a point that probably we need to hit on. The Mariners may not be able to pick how they slot their rotation for the playoffs. If they're up against it till the very end of the year and get in late, they're not going to have a chance to reslot their rotation. It's going to be whoever is slated to pitch. This exercise is more about if they can pick to slate it, how would you go? But what's reality? Reality may be they just have to go with whoever's turn it is.
And speaking of reality, let's put into more of a perspective of the kind of team the Mariners just kind of pushed aside this weekend in the Mets. The Mets, over their previous 60 games, had the best record in baseball. The best. 39-21 over their last 60 games. Over that stretch, they had scored the second most runs in baseball, 5.5 per game. And if this puts it in perspective a little bit more for Mariner fans, the Mariners' ERA this weekend was .33. .33 against a team that had done that over a sample size that's a third of the season, that they were the best team in baseball. That is, last weekend against the Phillies, we said you could argue that's the best series win of the season. No, this one is. This one is. Overpowered a good baseball team, offensively, defensively, and on the mound. This team's so hard to beat in T-Mobile Park. It is unbelievable. I don't know how the Tigers, how they just didn't show up against Tigers. I don't get it. Because we've seen what happens when everything clicks. It is incredibly difficult to win at T-Mobile.
They better find a way to win that division, because to have a series at home, it's going to be hard to beat the Mariners in a playoff series at home, especially with that rotation going. Win that division. Also, I got to make sure I listen to Mets Up this week. Our friends Giraffe Neck Mark and James Shiano, who do the Mets Up podcast, we were on with them last week. I saw Mark tweeting he was livid after that series, and he should have been. And he said he was going to go off on a rant on the podcast, so I think I need to go back and listen.
Let's give one last shout out here before we get to our interview with Emerson Hancock. Shout out to Troy Taylor. Makes his MLB debut. He has not been in the Mariners organization longer than 2 years. A little bit over 2 years. 1 year. Sorry. Technically. He comes in the ninth inning. He looks great. Fastball's up to 98. Showed a sharp slider. And it's going to be exciting to watch. He was pretty amped up. You could see it on his face. You could see how locked in he was. And I think he was mumbling to himself, too, as he's doing. He's just trying to get the energy out however you can when that adrenaline is pumping. But he looked good. And this team, as we know, needs another reliever. They need a reliever to slot somewhere in those 8 bullpen spots. They need another guy. They need another guy they can rely upon, because right now they don't have enough guys that they can truly say, we trust this guy no matter what the scenario is. You and I highlighted this a little bit on our live stream. Like, the role I think we would be aiming for Troy Taylor to have is a guy that they don't really need to pitch in leverage, because the Mariners starters are going to pitch deep enough into games where the Mariners can go with some combination of Colin Snyder, Jimmy Garcia, and Andres Munoz with a lead. No problem. But you need people that you can trust to pitch from behind and that have pitched well consistently, because the Mariners haven't gotten consistent performances out of the other guys in those bullpen that we did not mention. Can Troy Taylor be that?
It's possible. The numbers in the minors say he was ready for the big leagues in a lot of ways. Here's what he did in Everett. 11 appearances, 150 ERA, 241 FIP. Gets called up to Arkansas. They said, you know what, Troy? You're too good for high A. You're too good for the Northwest League. In Arkansas, 29 appearances, 117 ERA, 228 FIP. He walked just over 2.5 per 9. Throws strikes, has a good fastball, didn't give up runs. They said he was ready for the big leagues. He had a great minor league season. By the way, another guy we talked to this week and did some content with. Another cool guy. Obviously friends with Logan Evans. And clearly you could see it was all like I got to take this all in this weekend. You could kind of tell. Like, he got out to the field early. He did his little media session, like a Welcome to Seattle thing, and then he was out on the field early before anybody else. You can kind of just see him looking around and walking around. I think that stuff's always so cool. Like, you're looking in the moment of a person who just realized they are living their dream in reality. So shout out to Troy Taylor for that. And shout out to his first big league outing, because we can talk about what his future will look like here long term in the Mariners bullpen. But 2Ks, stuff was ticked up. Fastball was at 98. And if he can be a keep the score at bay type of reliever, they can really use that right now, like you said.
Mm-hmm. What his upside is, I think we're still trying to figure that out a little bit, because the results in the minor leagues was very good. I think from everything I've consumed online, it is like the profile still, as he's labeled on there, is a closer profile, a high leverage reliever profile. But he's still got to prove himself at the big league level. And especially as a two-pitch guy, the two pitches need to be extremely, extremely good. And the strikeout rate in Double-A was good at 27.5%. How does that translate to the big league level? Is that a 27.5% at the big league level, which is fine for a reliever, good, somewhere between good and fine? Or will that drop down to a 23 to 22% because big league hitters are significantly better? We're going to have to wait and see that. And that also doesn't take into account, could he add another pitch as well? I know he has a changeup that he throws rarely, but we've seen a two-pitch guy like Andres Munoz evolve, and if Troy Taylor wants to survive at the big league level, that very well could be an option here in the future. But we'll have to see. I think we need like 15, 20 innings to see what he really is and how his stuff plays day in and day out.
So sometimes I like to use K per nine a little better than strikeout rate. Just sometimes I feel like it's more digestible. Sometimes I think for other people it's a little more digestible. So Troy Taylor in the minors, in Double-A I should say, struck out a little over 9 batters per 9. That's a fine strikeout rate. It's not overwhelming. It's not like what Edwin Diaz was doing in his peak years here in Seattle, or what Paul Sewald did that first year when he was striking everybody out in 2021. But it's fine. Like that's a good way to put it. So with that, I think we're going to have to watch and see how strikeouts for Troy Taylor translate to the big leagues. Because most times nowadays, especially if you're profiled as a high leverage arm long term, you have to strike guys out. That's how relievers thrive these days. You have to strike guys out, especially with that type of stuff. And he wasn't striking nobody out. We got a question on the live stream on Sunday asking why Carlos Vargas wasn't getting a chance. Well, his ERA is under 3, but he's walking everybody, gives up a ton of hits, and he is literally striking out 5.5 batters per 9 in AAA. That's why Carlos Vargas isn't up in the majors. Troy Taylor's not putting up that low of a strikeout rate, but it's right in the middle. What he did in the minors is right in the middle. To be a really good reliever, high-end reliever, usually you need what? As 11-ish Ks per 9, and maybe at least a little closer to 10. 9's fine. But I just think you need a little bit more of an uptick. He can get there. He's 22. He's got a long ways to go in terms of his development, which is a good thing. But it'll just be interesting to see how it translates. Because usually these days, as a right-handed reliever in the big leagues with big stuff, you got to swing. You got to get swing and miss, and you got to strike guys out.
And lucky for him, his fastball's pretty unique. He throws a four-seam, but the action of it is like a sinker, and at least a pretty good ground ball rate. So it sort of offsets the if there is a lack of strikeouts, a lot of the contact will be on the ground. The worst thing he could do is be an average strikeout reliever, but have a fastball that gets hit in the air a ton. Mm-hmm. And that usually leads to home runs and extra base hits. And that's he gets sent back down to the minors. So we'll see. We need to see more than one appearance from Troy Taylor, but it was good to see him. He was amped up. The stuff looked really good. His family was thrilled. They kept panning to him in the stands, cheering for him, screaming at him. That was pretty awesome. These debuts seem so cool. But what it means in the sense of the Mariners, he is really the last option they could add to that bullpen this year, I think, unless it's an emergency. In terms of choices to add to the Mariners bullpen, it's pretty much just him or when they feel like Gabe Spire is ready to come back to the big leagues. I think that's about it when it comes to relievers this year. So that group that's there in the bullpen right now is what you got.
Right? And we'll see how it goes the rest of the way. Let's not let the strikeout talk derail us, though. I am very, very excited Troy Taylor got the call up. I've wanted to see him get called up for a while now. And I know strikeouts weren't that high. Again, there were still some things for him to work on in Arkansas. But the way he was pitching, with the results he was getting, the stuff he has, I was like, man, I hope he gets to the big leagues this year. And now, in the stretch run, they've got him. And you've got a guy that's got a chance to play a very important role. Because when you're down by 1, down by 2, you need the guy that can keep it at bay. You got to give your offense a chance. You just have to. And he can do that. Long term, I don't think this will be the role he pitches in. If he continues to develop, I think you'll see him pitching more leverage. But you need him this year to keep leads at bay. And I'm very excited to watch him do that because I think he's got a chance to be very important.
As we framed it, the keep it close reliever, right, I think is the role we need. That's what they need right now.
Definitely. Okay, one last thing. I want to do 60 seconds on this, then we'll start to transition. Ahmed Rosario got DFA'd by the Dodgers today. Do we think the Mariners pick him up?
So you talked to Leo Rivas for the first time this weekend and had glowing reviews of him.
Yeah.
So we could vouch. Now, personally, Leo Rivas, he had a good series this weekend. Fantastic dude. If Ahmed Rosario makes it to the Mariners on waivers, yes. Absolutely. Because JP's not back for another 3 weeks at least.
Yeah.
Could use that production right there.
You have to. And he was hitting well with the Dodgers. I'm shocked they let him go.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the Mariners are not the only team that'll be interested in Ahmed Rosario. But yeah, if he makes it there, you'd have to think they're gonna be interested. And maybe he sticks around longer than 3 weeks for when JP's back. Maybe they let somebody else move around or go back to the minors or whatever once JP's back. If Ahmed Rosario proves he's worth keeping around. So
Well, Rosario's played some outfield this year too, right?
has he? No, then
I think so.
Then maybe that's an option. Maybe one of the outfielders goes down.
The Mariners have a
bit.
logjam in the outfield right now, so
Right.
it'll be tough.
Right.
But I'm all in on that. That makes the Mariners better. If he gets to them, that's a yes.
Yeah.
Instantly. It should be. It would lead to a tough roster crunch for someone you wouldn't want to. Once everyone's healthy, it would lead to a crunch for someone you probably don't want to move around, but got to put your best 26 out there.
Have to. Yeah, I just wanted to hit on that for a minute because it is news here on Monday, and we'll see what happens in the coming days if the Mariners have a chance to pick him up or not. But, yeah, Ahmed Rosario. All right, let's take a quick pause. We're going to talk to you guys about our friends over at Pagacci's Pub 85. Well, the Mariners are on a roll now. They've got a road trip coming up. So, while they're not at home, why don't you plan a night out with your friends? Get out, watch the game, have some great food, drinks, happy hour drinks, might I add. Do all that over at Pub 85. Happy hour drinks, $3 and $4, Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. Get there early, get some happy hour specials, some great food. You can play some darts, pool, then sit down to watch the Mariners. There's more than 20 TVs in that place. All of that is over at Pagacci's Pub 85 in Kirkland. So, Emerson Hancock's the man.
Yeah, he is. He is the man. We've told the story on here the last time we talked to him in person, right? We're just hanging out at the dugout. Did we tell that?
So I don't know if we did. I'll let you tell it, but
okay.
Just to tee it up for people, we talk about it a little bit in the interview with him, but we're gonna fill in some dots here.
So what sort of invigorated us to have a conversation with Emerson Hancock? We knew he was awesome. We talked to him at spring training. We'd done some content with him, small conversations here and there around the facility. And you could tell he's great. And he's, a year younger than us? Mm-hmm. So it's it's relatable. But it was a July weekend I was home. The second to last weekend I was home in July. His last start in the big leagues. And he's starting on that Sunday. And you and I are out there, 8:30 or 9 in the morning-ish, 9:30. We're just chilling on the top rail of the dugout, hanging out, waiting to see if anyone's out there. So Emerson comes walking on the bottom, on the floor of the dugout, and we're up top on the field level, and we're not looking at him, right? Because we're like, well, we know he's starting, and when a pitcher's starting, it's like, well, I'm not bothering with you today because we're going to get in trouble if we talk to you. So he walks by us.
Let me fill in the dots for people. Maybe some people know this, maybe some people don't. When a starting pitcher is on their start day, you do not talk to him. Not only is that a media thing, it's a player thing. Players in the clubhouse do not talk to starting pitchers on their start day until the start is over. You just leave them alone. It's very superstitious. It's very much routine. It's been a baseball thing forever. You leave them alone. If a media person was going to walk up to somebody on a start day and try to talk to them, oh yeah, you'd probably get in trouble.
So Emerson's walking in the dugout, and we're looking away from him. He's like, "What's up, boys? Who are we interviewing today?" And Lyle and I look at each other like, "Oh." They look around. I was like, "What's up, Emerson? How we doing?" You want to get on the... It's like, we can't interview you today. You're starting. There's a rule against that. He's like, what? That's not a rule.
Sort of, yeah. I said, Emerson asked, boys, who we getting on the mic? I was like, well, it all kind of depends on who walks by. I tried to keep it short because, again, it's Emerson's start day. He just got back up from Tacoma. Let him do his thing. I was like, kind of always depends who walks by. Tried to be, obviously, as nice about it as possible, but try to get in and out. And TJ's like, we'll probably get in trouble if we talk to you. And Emerson goes, what? Because I'm starting today? He's like, that's not a rule. And I said, listen, Emerson, if you wanted to come up to us and say, I know it's my start day, but I need to get on the mic today, we would never tell you no. I just want you to know we are absolutely 150% getting ripped by somebody with the team if we do. He's like, all right, maybe it's a little bit of a rule.
So anyways, that has led to us getting him on the mic here on this podcast, and we had a fantastic conversation. Again, it's great. I mean, we start talking about how bad of a defensive coordinator Kirby Smart is. It was a great way to start it.
Yeah, always.
Don't leave out or head coach. Yeah, he still calls his defense, Lyle. Close enough.
I was going to say
we start off with Georgia Bulldog football and talking about coming up through the minors. We talk about his philosophy of a start day, how he approaches it compared to everyone else. That was really interesting to hear about, too. I mean, he's still relatable. But we're just kind of messing around half the time. So he was great. He's the best.
Yeah, like we talk about him playing ping pong. Maybe him and I will get on the table next spring. We'll see. We talk about that a little bit. But, yeah, like we talk about some baseball stuff, too. It's a very good, like, free-flowing conversation. He's awesome. I will say that the next day, we got Emerson on the mic for some content back when he was starting in Seattle. Not on the start day. The next day we got him, and then we ended up getting him here on the podcast, and it was awesome. He is unquestionably one of our guys at this point. So, yeah.
And we hope we see him back up here in Seattle soon enough. But until then, you guys can hear him here on this podcast, and we'll get you guys to that interview with Emerson Hancock. All right, we got Mariners starter Emerson Hancock on with us. Emerson, thanks so much for taking some time for us. We're going to start how we'd normally start with you. So let me just throw this at you. Should we talk about 2nd and 26 now, or should we save it for later?
We're not going to talk about that on this podcast. We're not going to get into that.
What was that defense he called?
I don't know, but I remember watching it with a group of guys, and it was what a roller coaster of emotion, especially the play before. Like you get a sack, you're like, okay, maybe they're out of field goal range, and great pass, great play, but really tough day right there.
So did it result in a lot of silence with everybody you were watching with, or was it a lot of profanity used that maybe you won't repeat on here?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I think it was more shock. It was like, oh my, like, because the high of the play before, and then you're locked in. You're like, all right, here we go, and just like perfect pass, perfect spot in the corner, and it's like it's over. And it's like a lot of people were upset, angry, but I think I just kind of sat there and didn't really know what to do.
Did the two winning the two offset that? Does the high of those two like offset the low of what was before? Because I'm going to be honest. So we're Seahawks fans, and we've seen about as bad as it possibly can get when it comes to heartbreaking losses. It depends on the win to offset something like that. One can argue a bad loss is worse than a great win. So I will ask you, did it offset or did it not?
I'll say this, watching them win the first one, it brought a tear. Just because of like everything that like the fan base, has been through. It had been such a long time. There have been so many great players and great teams. And just to kind of be at that point, like, all right, we're going to do it. Like, this is awesome. Just like seeing the fan base, how excited they got. And then, you get to do it again. And I think that's something that, should never be taken for granted because winning is really, really hard. Those guys put in a lot of time and effort and dedication, and to win 2 national championships back to back, like, that's sick. I mean, 3 would be awesome, but just the accomplishments they've had in a short period of time has been really cool.
All right. That's a good response. I was gonna say, I don't know if we had the same response. Maybe it was because the order was flipped, where we saw a Seahawks win and then the loss, where there was shock, but oh no, we were. Well, I don't want to speak for TJ, but I remember just yelling a bunch of whatever after that Super Bowl. Same thing with we're in the trust tree here. Same thing when the Yordan Alvarez home run happened 2 years ago. Oh, it was like there was shock, but like the immediate reaction was like, oh, there was like profanities let out. Like just, yeah. As people who are diehard Mariners fans, like to go through crushing losses like that, like you said, everybody reacts differently. But for us, it was like, yeah, like, oh, that was a tough pill to swallow. I'll put it like that.
What about the excitement for winning a second one by 58? Do you get excited for that?
the accomplishment of winning a national championship should never be taken for granted. To win 2 in a row, I mean, I get it. The game was a blowout, but like, it's just, you've been through so much, and now you get to do it 2 times, you know, in back-to-back years. It's like, all right, what's going on here? You know, we're really lucky. It's a great time to be, you know, a Georgia Bulldog fan, but I mean, those feelings are hard to describe. They really are.
Okay, so anybody listening to this or anybody that knows anything about you knows that not only did you go to Georgia, but you grew up a diehard Georgia Bulldogs fan. And I think it's pretty clear that's probably where you were always dreaming of playing your college ball. So when you get into high school and offers are starting to roll in, well, one, what are some of the other college offers you had? And two, how long did you have to wait around to get the interest from Georgia?
Yeah, that's a great story, great question. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, I didn't have many college offers. I was a real late bloomer in high school. Like, I didn't really throw as hard as the other guys kind of coming up. So it was like, all right, what can I do to, like, just kind of get myself on the map? Like, what I want their attention. And the back of my mind, it was always Georgia. You know, there would be some other schools that would reach out, but I was like, all right, what do I need to do to get their attention? And I remember going up to a couple camps and kind of putting my name out there at Georgia, and the interest just wasn't really there. And I remember I was like, all right, I got to throw a little bit harder. So I would, you know, sometimes go to the gym, you know, twice a day as a freshman, sophomore, junior in high school, just trying to gain the velo. So after I had a really good junior year, I got a visit to go up to school. Obviously loved the place, and, you know, talking to Coach Strickland, you know, I was just kind of waiting on that offer. And it was a funny story. It led into a summer ball game where Georgia came, and the pitching coach was there. And, you know, for me, it's like, all right, this is it, right? Like, this is the moment, you know, things are either going to go one way or the other. I had a terrible first inning. I think there's a couple walks, couple hits, maybe 3 or 4 to nothing. And, like, I'm walking off the mound, and it's like, all right, like, this can either go one or two ways. Like, we can either, you know, you can either quit, go somewhere else and play, or you can kind of, like, fight and just see where it goes. Like, put up a 0 the next inning and see where things go. And I ended up, I think, getting to, like, the 6th or the 7th inning. I think didn't give up another run, and we won, like, 5-4. And I'm getting out of the dugout. Coach Strickland calls me and offers me the scholarship. And, like, guys, like, it's been one of the most emotional days, like, I've had, like, just realizing that. And it was like, all right, yep, I'm going there. So I know, long story, but it was such a good question because it brings back really good memories.
And it's crazy to see the reaction of getting that, because you were supposed to, after this late bloom and your velocity taking up, you were still supposed to go in the first round out of high school if you wanted to, but you ultimately decided instead to go to Georgia. Do I have that right?
Yeah, we had some really good interest, you know, early on in the draft, and it was just something to where, as the season went on, my senior year, I just really wanted to go to school. Like, I went up on a visit, and they were playing Mississippi State one weekend, and, like, the crowd was into it. They won the series, and it's like, I want to experience this. Like, I want to see what it feels like, you know, to represent such a great place. And it was just kind of how it was. I think I did maybe a couple workouts for, like, some teams toward the end of that senior season, but ultimately I wanted to go to school.
So then I want to fast forward to your junior year, because I'm curious how stuff like this plays out for top draft prospects. Could you walk us through what's it like being a top 5, top 10 draft prospect, going to class, going to training, knowing, like, what's ahead for you, the expectations, the pressures, like, needing to perform? How did you handle that?
Yeah, I think for me, personally, it was always, I felt kind of the pressure and expectations to win with the guys that we had. And so, because it meant to so much of the guys on our team to be able to go out there and win and do something really special for our university, and not being able to do it in 18 or 19, I think 20 was like a big year for me, because it was like, all right, this is probably our last chance together to make a really good run. And I just think, as you know, you go through everything in that sophomore year, and everything's building up your junior year. I mean, we're a top 5 team in the country. All the expectations are there. You know, you're trying to be, you know, the guy that's going to help them get there. And it's tough, but at the same time, like, it's a lot of fun if you embrace it. Like, it's a lot of fun to have the fans engaged, people behind you. You know, they're packing out the stadium. and playing with that group of guys. But it's all about kind of how you view it and how the perspective you go into it with.
Now, I understand the uptick in in team expectation, but I assume there was also, some more media attention on you. There were more scouts there. Your, MLB pipelines, like trying to get an interview with you, Baseball America, etc. I mean, trying to talk to you and get to know Emerson Hancock, because everyone knows, hey, this dude, when he gets drafted next year, he's going to be a top 40 prospect at least. He's going to be some team's future, hopefully ace on the mound. How did you feel like you dealt with that?
I feel like I did, as good as a job, because it's really hard to prepare for stuff like that. Like, until you go through it, you really don't know. It's all right, what's the right way to do this? And I mean, I think at the end of the day, you just kind of focus on, helping the team win. Like that was my mentality. It was, if our team is really successful, our team is doing the things that we're capable of doing, then things are probably going pretty well. And I just tried to have that mentality. I tried to enjoy being with that group of guys the best that I could. And I feel like I did, pretty good job of doing that.
All right, you've got 4 different pictures on your Instagram while you're at Georgia with your AirPods in, just like you have now. So what do you listen to, either whether it was back at Georgia or whether it's now? Has it even changed that much, what you listen to on a start day?
Yeah, it's a lot of country, a little bit of pop, just a couple songs that I like to kind of get things going. But back then, everybody at school, like Jason Aldean was kind of like the guy that I always listened to. Mm-hmm. And so everybody would give me a hard time just about when the AirPods in, I'd listen to that. Like, he's been my pitching song my whole career. So it's just kind of guys give me a hard time about that. So
you'd have to answer this question for me, because I don't listen to a ton of country music, maybe a little bit, but is that stuff motivating before a start? I'm not sitting here saying you have to listen to whatever in the world George Kirby listens to on a start day, but does that fire you up, Jason Aldean?
I think certain songs do. Like, Jason Aldean's really good at it. Dustin Lynch has some really, really good songs that I like listening to. It's just, for me, I don't want to get too high either. I kind of want to listen to some good music that'll kind of get my energy going a little bit, but I just don't want to just completely get all the way pumped up, because the ebbs and flow of the game, the first inning, you're always way up here and you're always trying to manage kind of in between throughout. But I kind of like just whatever's going to get me going in the warm up.
So when you say pop, is it country pop, or is it legit Taylor Swift pop or Bruno Mars or something?
It's more the song "Burn" by Ellie Goulding, kind of stuff like that. I got a couple other songs on my workout playlist that are pretty good, but just kind of something that's got a good beat and kind of keeps you going.
Now, I'm curious what your take would be on what Paul Skeens listens to. Have you heard this? He apparently listens to audiobooks while warming up. I can't imagine that's overly motivating, but do you think you yourself could trick your mind into being motivated by listening to an audiobook?
I think you could do really anything if you wanted to. If you wanted to try it, and if you wanted to, exercise your brain in a different way, absolutely try it. But I don't know, it'd be something to be cool to just kind of see how your body reacts to it.
It's interesting how different everybody is in this rotation in terms of how they want to feel on a start day, I guess, how they want to prepare on a start day. Because you've got the guys like Logan or George who, are just 0 to 100 on a start day in terms of their intensity. And then you have people like you and Bryce who, at least we hear Bryce is pretty mellow and pretty relaxed on a start day. And then you, for people who haven't heard this story, a couple weeks ago when you're making your start, you walk by us, we're standing on the field, and you're like, what's up? Who's hopping on the mic today, et cetera, et cetera. And the two of us are looking around. We're like, are we allowed to be talking to him right now, or are we going to get ripped by somebody from the team? So, it's very different how all you guys prepare, and I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and I will say this. I have gotten a lot better with that. Mm-hmm. I think early on, in college, it was maybe a little bit of the psycho, don't talk when I got my headphones in type of deal. But I just think the more and the longer that you do it, it's we talk about this with people with the Mariners. It's just kind of you kind of have to still be a human, I can still interact with you if I have to pitch or not. And I think I've gotten better at locking in when you need to lock in. And it makes helps your mind not be so fatigued at the end of the day.
Is it a thing? Is it just overthinking? If you close everyone out too early, are you just spending too much time thinking about your start, and perhaps you can, you like you said, you exhaust yourself that way by like running through a simulation of what the start's going to look like too many times, and then you get out there and you're like, man, I'm already tired. Like my brain hurts. Like this doesn't feel natural to me.
Yeah, I think you're just expending energy that you don't need to. Like, do you really need to be locked in as soon as you wake up during the day? It's like, I kind of like as many starts as you're going to make during a day, and as long as the baseball season is, like, it's nice to wake up and like enjoy a little bit of the day. And then like when you head to the field, then it's like, okay, like now it's time to start getting into that mode. Like, I know that I can lock it in when I need to. Like, I can kind of cut up with some of you guys or make jokes with some of the other guys. Like, it's going to be okay,
Uh-huh.
So when does that
cool.
start for you? What time of the day is that you're like, let's lock in?
Probably like whenever, after I get lunch and it's like kind of that down period, but like when I'm getting ready to head to the field, and it's like when I pull into the field, like I'm probably ready to go. And like once we get to like the starting pitchers meeting, it's like, all right, it's time to get ready.
I'm curious I want to take you back a little bit earlier on into your Mariners career, what your first conversation was like with the pitching group. Because we've talked to a couple of the guys, especially in the bullpen, who have talked about how when they sat down with the Mariners pitching group, that they're really straightforward with them, and they talk about, we already like the stuff you have. Don't worry about changing up your entire arsenal. Just maybe throw this pitch a little bit more, or this pitch a little bit more ahead in counts. Like, when you first sat down with the Mariners pitching group, what did they tell you?
Yeah, I remember, being at the hotel in 2020, it was the alt-site, and this was the spring training, whatever we had before. And I was sitting down with Max, who's our old pitching coordinator, and we were just kind of going through everything. Like, these are your numbers on your pitches. This is what it would do right now in the major leagues. And for us at school, like, we had the technology. We didn't quite go into the depths that the Mariners do, or, I mean, as we've all learned about, like, what the numbers actually are. And so it was like, wow, it's like there's different strategies of like, all right, just because this pitch has this numbers, we need to throw it here. And then the whole like 0-0s and 1-1s, it's like as a pitcher your whole life, like you always understood like, okay, I need to get ahead. Like, and when I get ahead and I'm throwing more strikes, like I'm probably going to be more successful. And so, but just seeing like the numbers laid out in front of you, it's like, okay, well, in this count, it's this. And then if I get behind, it's this. It's like, okay, well, I'm just going to try to throw strikes. And if I do that, then everything will be good. But having that initial conversation that kind of started everything, and as much as I know now, it's been really cool.
Do you remember what the first usage tweak was? Like the biggest change you had to do going from college to pro?
So the first thing we wanted to do was start to throw like the 2 fastballs. So that was a big thing. In college, I threw the same grip, but, when I would go up in the zone, it would kind of be more true and ride more. When I would go down, arm side, it would run. And so Max was like, you have the ability to have a really good both heater. And it's like, we think that can make you, really, really good. And so early on, we tried to do the same grip and just manipulate it. But then as soon as we switched to like the 2-seam grip, that's when things got like a lot easier because the shapes got more distinct.
How do you feel like your evolution as a pitcher has been in your now 4 years in the Mariners org?
I think it never ends. Like, just, I think, who I was 2 years ago is not who I am now, and the same could be said in 2 years from now. Like, the thing that I've learned most is, like, you always need to be trying to adapt and evolve. Like, you always need to be open to new ideas and new pitches and new grips because, like, you're always trying to push that envelope. And I'm a guy that I'm going to use every possible resource or every possible cue to try to get better. And so I just think, like, you're always trying that.
Are you the best fielding pitcher in the organization, by the way? Like, I remember that play from your debut, by the way. Like the Grisham ball up the line, you dive flat on your stomach, you barehand the ball, you backflip it to first. I remember watching that. I was like, whoa. Like, how often do you see a pitcher do that? Like, is it when you guys do PFPs in spring training, are guys standing around like, God, Emerson's going to make us look bad again in these drills?
I don't think so. I think that clip helped me out a ton because after that, there was probably a couple of rough ones that didn't look so great. The one in Colorado, where Ty ran me over. That was a tough one. And the one against Chicago where they hit the one in between I had to run over. I was telling Ty after the game because I kind of like stumbled and dove and I was expecting to get hit again. I was like, Ty, you kind of scarred me a little bit there, brother.
So who's the best one then? If it's not you, who's the best fielding pitcher?
I don't know. I mean, I think all the guys are surprisingly athletic. Like they make the play, like they're really accurate with their throws. Like it's a pretty good group.
What does it mean to you to get to share an organization with, I'd say, Logan Gilbert and George Kirby specifically? Because you guys were all sort of cut from the same mold with the same idea when the team drafted you. First round, right-handed power pitcher. So what does it mean for all of you guys to come up in the organization together and all try and pitch the Mariners to success?
It's special. It really is. I mean, I just think that starting, back when we did and as much time as we've been together and kind of seeing, their success and learning who they are as a person, as a player, and just watching them grow, man, it's been cool. And it's been really special to do it with all the guys. As much time as, you get to spend with each other, you really do become like family. And to be able to go out and, do the best you can for the organization and try to win games, man, it is awesome. It's hard to put into words, and I'm really, really grateful to be a part of it.
Do you play a lot of golf with those guys?
Yeah. We've played a good amount of golf.
Well, I know you're really good, and we hear Kirby's really good. Who wins more often?
Kirby, I've never beat Kirby one-on-one. We never played one-on-one either, but Kirby, I think he's always outshot me. He's just a really solid player, man.
Can we get a golf power ranking, guys in the org?
I think so. From who I've played with, George is one for sure. I would say probably maybe me or Woo is a tie, depending on like who's putting better that day. Woo strikes the ball beautifully though, like it's a real fluid swing and everything. I've played golf with Cal a couple of times, and he's probably maybe a little bit below, and then Logan is probably at the bottom.
That's what we heard about Logan. In fact, Logan was telling us in spring training, sometimes I'll like to play golf.
Sorry, I can't leave Brash out. Brash is in there too. Yeah, Brash is really fun to play with.
Is he pretty good?
Yeah, really good.
So where's he on the ranking?
I think they might get mad at me for saying. I would say that like me, Brash, and Woo are kind of in the same bucket of like who's playing better that day. Because if I'm not driving it well, I have no chance.
I remember Logan saying to us in spring training, sometimes before a start day, I'll actually like to go play golf because he said it's relaxing. But he said, I'm not very good, but I like to go play. Those were his words, not ours. But
yeah, he is fun, though. He's fun to be out there.
I can't imagine. Like, I'm trying to think of myself golfing before a start day. I feel like I just get more pissed off.
Yeah, you could.
Ball ends up in the water, and I'm just like, I'd probably shoot like a 60 over if I was out there on a golf course, and going into my start day, I would do that as motivation, not as something that's actually like relaxing.
Or you could go out there and fire a high 70s and be like, all right, here we go. It's going to be a day.
If I'm shooting par, I'm going to play mini golf instead. My putting is fine. I have no problem putting. It's just getting the ball anything beyond like 15 yards.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's cool that I've heard a couple people do that before, though. Like just to be able to go out and take a big chunk of the day to not think about the start or pitching. Like I think that's really beneficial.
Do you have a day before start thing that you do?
Nothing in particular. I mean, obviously you go through all your prep, your lifting, your whatever, but most of the time it's just kind of the same stuff. I just don't really like to play golf the day before. I'm weird about certain things.
How long have you been playing golf?
So I used to play a good bit when I was a kid. My dad would take me and my brother out, and we would go play and do whatever. And so, like, even then, like, I loved it. We just didn't have a lot of time for it. Mm-hmm. We were always traveling. We were always playing baseball. And after my freshman year at Georgia, a lot of the guys stayed and trained and worked out over the summer, and that's when we played a lot. And that's when I was like, okay, like, I really do love the sport.
That's cool.
Break yourself down as a golfer. What are your strengths and weaknesses?
Okay, so I think I would say my strength is probably putting. Like, that's where I'm going to give myself the best chance. The driver is hit or miss, as I think with everyone that plays golf. Like, that's not a thing. If I'm hitting it in play, inbounds, I got myself a good chance because, like, I feel like I have pretty good feel on the greens.
Okay. I like that. I like that breakdown. You know, you mentioned what you do before a start, by the way. I've always been curious about this. Like, how many days throughout a week will you actually lift and work out? Because I can't imagine it's every day, especially on a start day. But, like, how do you break that up?
Yeah, so I always do a lower, an upper, and then it's like called like a primer lift, like the day before. So I like to go the day after the start. It used to be kind of a lower that day, but then I was like, all right, let's try it and see just what happens if we give ourselves like a full day to recover. Like, how's the body going to feel? And I always it felt like probably the past 2 years of giving yourself that day, like I could get so much better lower lift because my body felt better. So I'll go lower, and then normally on day 3 would be my bullpen. I'll go upper body after that day. After the bullpen, it's like an off day, kind of maybe like a really good mobility day to kind of flush everything out. Day before is a primer lift where you're getting in there, you're trying to move things quick, trying to move things explosive, and then start.
So how do you deal with being sore from a workout during a start? If I was a starter, I would think to stay away from upper body any time close to a start. Because the last thing you want to do is get out there and you're like, man, it's like shoulders are aching from that workout yesterday. I can't be doing that. Yeah,
it's a balance. It really is, because I think as you go throughout the season, you know, like the intensity that you can go, how many sets you need to do. And so, but your body also gets used to it. So once you get to a really good point in the season, it's like you can go in there and lift, you can go lower, and like the next day you're not really sore just because of the stress that it's kind of like adapted to throughout the year.
Do you have like a big do you have a big like after a start? Do you do cardio to loosen things up too? Because I know Castillo does that. A day after the start, he'll put the headphones on and he'll just be jogging everywhere.
Yeah,
do you
cool.
have something like that?
No, I kind of wish I did. Kind of wish I had something every day to go out there. I mean, I think the day after, I want to just move. I want to move as much as I can. If I'm at the stadium, probably try to get on the treadmill, do like an incline walk, like just go through everything normal, but also kind of like limiting the amount of throws and stress for that day.
If you had an off day, you should just go hiking. Have you been hiking?
Hiking or play golf, you know?
Yeah, you could do either. No golf cart allowed though. If you're playing golf, you gotta
That's
walk.
Right. You need to walk.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, so you're not running 100 flights of stairs like Luis or whatever it is.
No, but that's kind of a cool routine if you think about it.
It's pretty cool.
Like every stadium you go to, like you're in there, you get to see it. Like you're just, I think the beauty of like being like in an empty stadium too, there's something about it that it just kind of, it's really cool.
Oh, even for us, like when we show up to the field early and like you could hear a pin drop in the place before all the fans show up, like even just kind of standing out there on the field, we think it's cool because like
it's cool, right?
Yeah.
There's something peaceful about it. And that's when I think you see guys like walking around in the outfield, putting their headphones in or just being outside. It's like, man, like this is sick.
Yeah, it's like whole place to yourself. Like, you know, as a kid, could you ever imagine I have this whole major league field to myself where I can just get out there and like do whatever I want to do without, not that you don't enjoy the screaming home crowd, but like beforehand when you get like like you said, the peacefulness of it, it's crazy.
It is. I never could imagine as a kid you'd be here, but here we are.
Yeah.
And we see the difference, too, because Luis is a guy who runs, but Logan will go meditate instead. He's not out there running. He just goes, sits and walks essentially in the outfield while the stadium's like completely empty. Just seeing the variance of that, I think is pretty cool. Would there be any one thing that sticks out to you that you'd want to add to your routine that you think one day would be beneficial to you?
I really don't know. I think just watching other guys, though, how they go about certain things. And it's like, hey, like, does that help you? Like, do you feel really good doing that? I'm really not sure. But I like where we're at right now. But, again, like, there might be something 2 months from now where you're like, all right, I want to do this. This is what I need to do. This helps me. And you go from there.
We usually wrap up with 5 fun questions, but I've got one more additional one for you before we get to that. You say you're pretty good at golf, which we've heard. Did I also hear you're pretty good at ping pong?
Ping pong, yeah, we play a lot in spring training, but like really pickleball.
Really?
Oh yeah, I got to play it a good bit the past 2 years. That's something that's really fun. Something I look forward to doing in the off season.
So Emerson, in case you didn't know, Lyle is a very, very good ping pong player.
Ping pong?
No,
Yeah.
not bad.
Let's go.
Actually, not bad's probably an understatement. So I always consider myself like I'll never brag about anything. I'm usually like reserved with all that stuff. Ping pong is the one thing in life where I'll actually puff my chest out and be like, yeah, I don't lose. That's like my one thing.
Just played a lot as a kid?
Yeah, we had a table growing up, so I would play a lot. And then I got to school, and there was tables at school, and my friends quickly learned, oh, this isn't any fun because I'll lose like 21-4 or whatever.
Were you the best at school? Like, was there anybody in there that was like, all right, I can't beat this guy? Or like you just beat everybody that walked in?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, I had a couple friends that would give me a game or two every now and then, but it usually ended up being kind of a landslide.
So, like, what's your ping pong strengths? Are you like a spin guy, or are you just forehand, it's automatic, just spiked?
You know what it is? I just don't like mess up, basically. Like, if you want to call it being a pusher in tennis is what they call it. My whole thing is like, I'll just keep rallying back. Like every now and then I could like hit a pretty decent forehand pretty hard, but my whole thing is like, I won't miss shots and I'll just keep the rallies going until somebody else messes up.
So do you ever go for the kill shot though? Like if they leave it up, like you're going for it?
Every now and then, yeah. Like, yeah, if there's one left right in the air, I'll go for it. But you know how Kirby says, I hate walking guys even more than I hate giving up hits? That's almost like what it's like for me in ping pong. I could hit a hard shot if I wanted to, but the amount I hate hitting a ball into the net and losing a point and messing up a point drives me nuts. So that's why I'll like keep the rallies going.
Okay. Love it. We'll have to play. Maybe at spring training one time.
I was gonna say maybe maybe in spring training next spring, if the clubhouse clears out one day, we can hop on and get a game.
Try it. That'd be sick.
We should do it. Like, would you say you're the best ping pong player in the clubhouse?
No.
We heard no.
We did the tournament. We did the tournament 2 years ago. I can't remember who won, but we had some good players, good players who would like. You would kind of ask them, hey, you want to be in the tournament? And they're like, I don't really know. And then they go in there and they'd get you pretty good. Flex was really good.
Who's that?
Flexen. He could really spin the ball. Yeah, like he was really, really solid.
I remember asking Ty Adcock back in the spring. I thought I remembered him saying, yeah, like Emerson and Kirby kind of dominate the clubhouse.
I think me and Curb just kind of always have to be doing something. And so, like, when we go in during camp, if the table's open, like, me and Curb are on it.
Okay.
Like, we just go back and forth, and, like, we'll play, 3 or 4 games in a row. Like, it's every day, too. And it's like, Curb, like, let's see who's got it today. One day, George will – because when George gets his feel going, it's like, all right, this will be tough. Because he'll just get you, but it's fun.
Emerson, were you in the 3-point shooting contest? I forget if I saw your name on that board.
I skipped out on that one.
Why not?
I don't know. I was like, let me watch this one. I'll watch this event this time.
Did you play any basketball?
But are you going to be in it
school
next year?
Oh.
So I did. I played a little basketball in middle school, nothing in high school. I don't know what we're going to have an event next year. Maybe they'll let us do a pickleball tournament. Probably not. But I think we took a group this year, and guys kind of enjoyed doing it.
If they let you do a dunk competition instead because you're so tall, do you think you'd do a little bit better?
I wouldn't be able to do anything cool, but I definitely think I would be able to dunk.
No.
Who would win a dunk contest on the Mariners?
Julio?
Julio
can really jump.
Julio,
what about
JP.
Logan? You think Logan's got some hops in him?
See, Logan's tall, but I don't know if he could, like, what's his agility like? Like, could he do any type of, like, ridiculous dunk? I don't know if he'd do anything other than just kind of jump up and flush it in.
I bet Wu could probably get a good dunk in there.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I'd say Wu's a sleeper in this because he's such a good athlete. Logan, I feel like has center jump qualities like Shaq. He doesn't need to jump as far, so he just that's where he kind of leaves it at.
Yeah,
but I feel like you could get up there a little bit. Do a windmill.
Yeah, I'd get up there. Maybe
windmill. What about an alley-oop?
Depends on the ball. Depends on the ball. If I can palm the ball, I got a really good chance. But if I lose it, obviously, it'd be tough.
You alley-oop off the backboard. Boom.
Who knows, right?
You know, that 3-point contest was actually crazy in spring training. I remember we were there for it, at least for one of the later rounds. And I think you were out there watching. JP hit, 15 in a row or something at one point? that was crazy. I remember getting
Yeah.
that on video. It's like, what did we just watch? He's out there in his Crocs, starts slow, and then he legitimately just starts draining him.
It's cool too with that kind of stuff because like you would think like, all right, there's no way this guy's any good at basketball, and next thing you know, like he'll get a rhythm going. Like, man, this guy's a pretty good athlete.
Yeah.
How many
Crazy.
threes would you make in a row?
If you gave me a couple of days before, I think I could put up a good performance.
Okay.
I mean, probably not a Casey Lawrence type performance. I think he ended up winning it all, but he also played basketball. So, like,
Right.
but seeing him out there, it was sick, man, because he's here. I give him a hard time all the time, and he's a sneaky good athlete, too.
His speech at the end was funny. He's like, I want to thank my college basketball coach for making me play baseball instead. That was good.
Yeah, he's funny, man. He's great.
Last thing, by the way, before we get to the 5 questions, like, did you start playing pickleball during COVID, or did it happen later?
I think it was towards the end of 22. My best friend's dad got into it really big. And so they had a group like back home that would play on every, like, I think Tuesday night or whatever it was. He's like, come on out. So I got a couple paddles, went out there, and like next thing you know, like you'd play for 2 or 3 hours and you're like, this is sick, you know? Like it's fun because like all the games are really good. Like you can play from like anybody can go out there and play with you. So if I get chances in the off season, I'm normally out on the courts a little bit.
Well, I was going to say, it's a little bit better than tennis in the sense where you can play for longer because you don't have to run around quite as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And you can be either back up front. Like it's a really cool game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to wrap up with 5 fun questions that we like to get every player's take on. So the first one, Emerson, your go-to pregame and postgame meal is what?
Go to pregame, some sort of sandwich, chip, something light, maybe a smoothie to add on. Postgame, I would love a steak. Steak, mashed potatoes, salad, everything.
What kind of sandwich? Are we like PB&J sandwich? Are we talking a turkey sandwich?
Like
club?
a turkey sandwich, a little turkey and ham sandwich, maybe with some bacon, some avocado, something light.
That's light?
Yeah, I think so. I don't like to eat a lot of lunch. Just a sandwich, that's not bad. Some chips.
That's fair.
The avocado, I think, makes it a little heavy.
Okay, all right. Well then,
Yeah,
But the avocado,
but if it's
gotta
light to
have
you,
it.
you're
That's
a lot.
what makes the sandwich, you know.
You're a pro athlete. I'm not, so you could probably digest it a little bit better than I can.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna burn it off really quick, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting it from like Subway or Jersey Mike's or something like that, or are you making it at home?
I kind of vary. I've gone from Subway, I've gone from Jersey Mike's, Panera, a little bit of everywhere.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, second question for you. 3 favorite TV shows ever, or what?
Oh, perfect. Prison Break, number 1. Blacklist, number 2 for me. And then number 3, this is not in any order because I know people are going to get mad and say, I really enjoy watching The Office.
There we
Okay.
go.
But, yeah.
I have not seen Prison Break or Blacklist. Would you recommend it, sounds like?
They just put Prison Break back on Netflix.
Ooh.
Prison Break
All right.
is phenomenal.
I watched it, I think, like early high school, maybe like 8th or 9th grade. My buddy was like, this is the greatest show ever. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. My brother forced me to watch that show, and
Great
I'm
show,
in his
right?
debt. I'm indebted to him because it was fantastic.
Would you put it in a top 3?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well,
No.
I'm
But it was
bored.
very
you guys
good.
are you guys are probably a little bit more diverse in the TV shows than I am.
I don't know about that. I just think so. I'm like a big Game of Thrones person. So
Okay.
like, I would probably just do Game of Thrones 1, Game of Thrones 2, Game of Thrones 3, just because there's so many episodes. I just find a way to fit the series in all my top 3. Because I'm a little biased in that sense. But Prison Break's up there. I mean, if it was top 10, yeah, it would be in there. Suits has gotten way up there for me too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I've seen a
10.
little bit of Suits.
He's lying. He watches a lot of TV. Honestly, I don't think I'm that diverse with the TV I watch. What this question's done for me, if anything, is started to get a list of TV shows from other people that recommend certain things, like whether it's Blacklist or Prison Break, or I think it was Reed Van Scooter that suggested Suits, and there's been a couple others too that like I never would have thought to watch, and now I've got a list of things that say, all right, maybe I'll give these a shot.
Yeah. Cool.
So, okay.
Next question: what would you be doing if you were not playing baseball?
Probably coaching. Is that fair? Like, is that can I still go on that route?
Yeah, you could. Is there anything else not sports related that you would be doing?
anything at the beach would be cool. I love the beach. Anything down there, I don't know, like anything. Just I love the whole environment, love the scene. So if it wasn't for baseball to get away, it'd be down there.
Okay. Emerson would just be he'd be a character in Baywatch.
Could be a lifeguard.
Yeah,
could just kind of have like a chairs and umbrellas type business. Set those up every day. Get a really nice tan.
Yeah, start a tiki bar.
See, now we're talking.
See, that sounds fun.
Now we're talking.
Yeah,
doesn't sound like such a bad life. Now,
tiki bar every day. Watch the sunset.
Yeah.
Like the sound of that.
Coaching's a good answer though. I think what we're hearing though is you'd be around baseball even if you weren't playing.
I think so. I think I would try that first and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, fourth question: best and worst baseball road trip you've ever taken, and worst can include some minor league horror story.
I think worst is in Double-A we would do like the Midland Amarillo series, and that's like 12 hours from Little Rock, and so like that one was tough because it was always in July or August. It was blazing hot, so that's the worst. The best, I'm trying to think which one do I really like. Going to, the Texas series was really cool. Like Colorado was cool for me because it was snowing that weekend, so that was really sick. Texas Stadium's really, really nice. Probably one of those two. I haven't been on many, so.
Yeah, this snowing atmosphere in baseball is pretty cool because I would imagine you don't get to see a whole lot of snow.
Yeah, like we woke up and like the streets are covered with, especially for me, like we don't see much snow ever, and it was like this is cool. Like the roads and people that I guess up north will get mad at saying it, but it's like snow on the roads, like it's sick.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm blanking. Did you pitch in that snow game? I'm trying to remember.
Louis pitched the first one. I pitched the second game of the doubleheader, I think, on Sunday.
Right.
Because I think we got canceled on Friday because of the weather.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I was trying to remember, like, pitching through snow, maybe you'd have a different take on it rather than just getting to enjoy it.
Louis shoved, and it was freezing cold that night.
Yeah, Lyle, you remember that was the first roof complaining.
Oh, yeah, we're big, like, every stadium should have a roof in Major League Baseball. Well, aside from, like, so you're on this train. Like, put a roof on stadiums.
I think so, because then it takes weather out of play, right?
Exactly. Yeah, like okay, if you're like what we say is if you're Wrigley or Fenway or one of those absolute historic stadiums, fine. Like it might be weird to have a roof on those stadiums, but the fact Colorado got built somewhat recently, last 20 years, and they're like, well, it snows here in April, we don't need a roof. Like, let's just leave it off. Like, why?
Yeah, I'm kind of on that train. If you can have a roof, I think you should have one.
Yeah. And T-Mobile Park has shown you can still have a beautiful outdoor stadium and a roof. It is possible to have both.
It is. It's so cool. Like, the difference with the roof on that stadium and not, it's night and day, right?
Yeah.
Night and day.
It's unbelievable.
The roof is important because it rains all the time, so if you have to play inside, you play inside. But, yeah, like, when the roof's open and it's summertime, it's amazing.
When you walk out there on a day game at T-Mobile and the weather's perfect, you're like, wow, this place is sick.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Absolute gem. All right, last one, Emerson. I think I have a guess what this might be. I could be wrong, but I'll let you answer it anyway. Your favorite all-time baseball player is who?
Chipper Jones.
Okay.
Chipper Jones. He was the guy in the yard that you were mocking the batting stance every time.
Mm-hmm.
Cool to watch him play. I mean, like a legend. Like when I think of watching the Braves, I think of Chipper Jones.
How far off was I thinking about when you've mentioned Gordon Beckham a couple times?
He's up there. He really is. I mean, growing up, seeing them have success, you turn on the TV, they're in the College World Series, and Gordon's going off. Like, there's a video on YouTube with Gordon hitting his, like, last home run, I think, at Foley Field, and I think I've watched that 30 or 40 times. Like, it's so cool, man. It's so sick.
That's really cool.
Well, Emerson, this has been fantastic. We hope to see you up in the big leagues soon enough so we can catch up again in person. But until then, man, this has been awesome. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, guys. Had a blast.
Really, really hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Emerson Hancock. We definitely did. It's so funny with these starting pitchers, as intense as all of them are during their start days and when they're on the mound. They are some of the nicest dudes when they're off the mound, like from Emerson Hancock to Logan Gilbert to Bryce Miller and others. Hard as nails on the mound and nice as can be off the mound. It's pretty cool. And Emerson was exactly like that, and we had a blast talking with him. So, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. That'll just about wrap up this edition of the Marine Layer Podcast. You guys know the drill. You want to listen to the full form podcast, you can do so wherever you get your audio pods. Make sure to download the episodes, leave a 5-star review, leave a written review. It helps us out a bunch if you do. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're on social media, I'm guessing most of you are, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts at Marine Layer Pod. That's TJ. I'm Lyle. As always, we thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.